When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to do to achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve. Are you like so many people who are sitting in your job feeling undervalued and underappreciated? Well, apparently you're not alone, because according to the Great Resignation, there are millions of people leaving their jobs because they're no longer chained to a desk. They might even take multiple jobs and work virtually, or so many are actually starting their own businesses. So what do you need to do to really take ownership of your financial success? Shift from what on Get Wealthy we call the wealth mindset and take ownership of your financial success? Well, here's what we want you to know that they don't want you to know. First of all, listen, you are not your job. And then secondly, what you do, your skill set, it can be monetized. And then finally, you can actually do well and do good. Well, that was our guest today, her situation. She was sitting in a job feeling like so many people. She had really done a great job, had been given a director's role, but not the compensation that came along with it. So what did she need to do to really take ownership of her financial success and not allow that emotion that many folks are feeling to really prevent her from actually realizing her potential? Well, that's exactly what we're going to discuss today. And it all begins with what we call on Get Wealthy mindset, strategy, and execution. So let's welcome our guest to our show today, Dr. Tisa Silver-Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining us on Get Wealthy and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me, Deborah. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So first, I gave our audience certainly some background, but tell folks just a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
So I am the founder of Silver-Kennedy and Associates, which is a higher education research and consulting firm, which you helped me start when I came to you years ago, feeling just frustrated, somewhat trapped, and really wanting more for myself in my role, but also more in compensation. So I started the for-profit business focused on my skill set in research and higher education, particularly dealing with student loan debt. And that mission, my personal mission, has evolved, and I recently founded a nonprofit organization called the Maryland Center for Collegiate Financial Wellness. But before we go any further, I have to stress that you were instrumental in planting that seed within me to let me know that it wasn't crazy to think about leaving a steady job with a steady paycheck and excellent benefits to do something more, to do something that I felt like I was called to do that could be monetized. So thank you.
Oh, well, I love that. Well, that's a great segue into our next part of this program, and that is mindset, strategy, execution. So what Tisa had to learn was exactly what she needed to do to take ownership of her financial success and not allow her circumstances to really dictate what she could realize. And then secondly, it's strategy. What could she do with what she already had and take advantage of benefits she already had to kind of make that next move. And then finally, it's all about execution. How could she, as a mother, a student, really shift to this wealth mindset? Tisa could have it all, but she may not have been able to have it all at the same time. And so when we come back, we're going right into mindset, the attitude, beliefs, and behaviors that Tisa had to kind of shift from in order to really take that leap into business ownership. So when we come back, we're going right into mindset.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, and it's time to get wealthy, where we're talking about what you need to do to really take ownership of your personal, professional, and financial success. And that's exactly what we're talking with our guest today, Dr. Tisa Silver-Kennedy, about. So Tisa, let's get right into it. You know, it's so interesting that we met many years ago. And what I know is that you've always had a love of financial literacy. And that really took you into your career because you helped more families pay off over $50 million in student loan debt. So I really want to start there. You were in your career kind of doing what you wanted to do, but you weren't really feeling fulfilled. So let's talk about that. Let's start there.
Okay. So my career in higher education actually began on the faculty side. I was teaching corporate finance and investments, and I love teaching. But the thing about teaching at a college or university is most of the time you need to have a terminal degree. So I didn't have a doctorate. After 3 years, I found myself rejected from all the graduate schools that I had applied to, and with my contract terminated. And I just wondered, what am I going to do? I had no plans for unemployment. I had planned to be in school. So I was looking for jobs, and, being unemployed, sometimes you might think I'll take anything. But for some reason, I just had something inside me that was saying, no, look for something that you want. Look for something that you're passionate about and you can do well. And I found one job, and that was in a financial aid office as the assistant director of financial education and wellness. And in that role, I was able to counsel students through the decisions about how much student loans to borrow and also how to repay those loans after they earn their degrees. But when I was in that role, I felt like I was doing good work, and I know that I was doing the work well, but the need was just so much greater than just being in that one office. So I began to take on more and more work. I also was promoted a couple of times and made it up to the level of director. But at that time, I felt like I was being pulled away from the work that I was passionate about into other areas because of staffing needs. And I appreciated it because I was able to gain a lot of knowledge about financial aid, registration, lots of other areas of higher ed. But I felt like that wasn't the best use of my time. So I started to think, what can I do if I have a vision or even a personal mission that goes beyond one campus? And a couple of years prior to that, that's when I engaged you to say, you know what? I'm frustrated. I feel, undervalued, underappreciated, sometimes overworked, and I engaged you to help me repackage my experiences so that I could be compensated what I felt like I deserved for the work that I was doing and for the talents and the skills that I brought to the table.
Well, you know what's interesting, Tisa, is in that role, like many people around you would have probably said to you, like, girl, what are you talking about? You're the director of this. You've got your degree. You're successful. Why are you dissatisfied? And so what I want you to kind of talk about just a little bit more is that mindset. How did you had done everything that you were committed to doing. And on the outside looking in, myself included, would have said, man, you're really successful. You're using your talents, you're adding value to others, you're making a difference. And yet you knew that you needed more. And so why did you actually seek me out? That's what I want our audience to know.
So I sought you out because I wanted more, and I couldn't put into terms exactly what I wanted or how to get there. So when I started to talk to you, you talked to me about the skills that I had. You talked to me about repackaging my resume so that it didn't read like a list of job descriptions, but it read more about me and what was so special about what I did with the job responsibilities that I had been entrusted with. And so for many people, I've had many people tell me, why are you, going for more? You got good benefits, you got a decent salary, you got a decent job. But sometimes I think people, when they hear the calling, when they receive the calling for what they're supposed to do, it makes them uncomfortable. And things happen that make it so that you can't stay in that space of comfort because you know that you're not doing exactly what it is that you were supposed to be doing. So I had these feelings. They were somewhat unclear at first, but over time, I just got to be so uncomfortable and I didn't know what to do with it. And I've been watching you for years. And I said, you know what? It's time for me to call in the experts because I have a very unique set of skills in this space of financial education and wellness, and particularly advising people through the repayment of student loan debt. But what is it that I can do with this so that I can reach more people and so that I can feel like I'm truly fulfilling my purpose? And like I said, you were critical to me figuring out what exactly is the vision. And the vision for me was to go beyond one campus. The vision for me was to actually take a look at my state and to try and help students across the state, whether they're in college or career school, make better decisions when it comes to financing higher education.
Oh, I love that, Tisa. I love how you kind of conveyed how you ask for help, because I think that's the real mindset shift, myself included, becoming an entrepreneur. I've always figured I needed to figure everything out on my own, that I was smart enough, why would I need help? And yet I had never been an entrepreneur. And certainly that was your situation as well. However, when we come back, what I want to share with the audience is strategy. I really want to go to the next aspect of that. So did Tisa just run from her job, had been so comfortable and that she'd been so uncomfortable with, and just take the leap? Or did she actually begin to think strategically about the things that she needed to take advantage of, know, and do prior to her really realizing her dream? So when we come back, we're going to talk about the strategy that Tisa applied in order to really take ownership of herself and actually learn how to build a business and create a business to scale so she could help more people.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
These are the only bins that will accommodate larger rollerboards.
They put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you eat 10.
Oh my God.
Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Deborah Owens. Welcome back to Get Wealthy. And we're talking about a topic that impacts so many people. With the Great Resignation, so many people are leaving their jobs or, primarily because they're unhappy and feeling appreciated and undervalued. And that certainly was how our guest, Dr. Tisa Silver-Kennedy, was feeling. And so what do you do if you're feeling that way? Do you just quit and go to the next level and think everything's going to work out? Or do you do what Tisa did? And that is create a strategy for really taking steps to what she eventually really wanted to do. So welcome back, Tisa. It's interesting. I love, I can recall your journey. And I can remember our first conversation, and you so eloquently put it that you really needed to figure out exactly what it was, gain some clarity around what it was that you really wanted, and then how to make it happen. So I want to talk a little bit about what was the first thing that you did. Based on our conversation, you were in that role. What did you need to do before making the leap?
Okay. So before the leap, one of the first things I asked you about was advocating for myself to get a pay raise. I felt that at the level that I was at within the organization, I felt with the experience and the education that I brought to the table that I should be paid more money. And so you helped me put a strategy together to advocate for myself. And during our time together, I did get that raise. And I'm very thankful for that. The second thing that I did was upon your advice, I started going out on informational interviews just to learn more about people who were in the space that I wanted to be in, higher education, personal finance, financial wellness, and just meeting with them to learn more about them and to also share a bit about me, not for the purpose of, getting a job or leaving immediately, but for building the network and to see what the need was so that I could have, those resources and those contacts at my fingertips at the point at which I was ready to leave. The other thing that I did was I sat down and I took a hard look at my finances to see what would it look like if I left right now with the savings that I have, what would it look like handling my obligations on what I have? How long would that last me? And when I basically took a look at the resources, the personal contacts, as well as the money that I had available, I said, I need to stay a bit longer and save, but also complete my doctorate. And one of the benefits that was available to me at the time was tuition remission, which meant that my employer paid for the bulk of my tuition. I was responsible for fees. So I set a date right there. If I do go, it will have to be after I complete this degree because I'm not going to go into student loan debt in order to earn it.
I love that, Tisa. I love that you shared that because I often tell people in our Wealthy You community that many of you are standing 10 feet away from goal. And your 10 feet, your goal really was the fact that you had existing benefits that you could leverage that when you did leave would put you in a much better position and really was another way that you needed to be rewarded. And so you went through a number of different things and I want our audience to kind of see what your strategy. So I really want to, you leverage what you had, you lobbied for more income, more pay, and advocating for more pay. And you talked about those informational interviews that you went on. And so what I want to do is connect the dots for our audience. When you went on those informational interviews, what insight did it give you about how you needed to negotiate with your existing employer?
So it really made me think about the level of match, because sometimes it's very tempting to say, well, I'm in this role, I do all this work, they just need to pay me more money. But you really have to look at the work that you're doing and see how it stacks up against the work that you're supposed to be doing. In my case, I was doing a lot of the work. I was doing everything that I was supposed to do, but I was also doing more because I had a larger vision for what I wanted to do with my life and for students and families across the state. But I also had to kind of reconcile in my mind that just because I was doing all of these extra things, it doesn't mean that it's the employer's responsibility to take that journey with me. It doesn't mean that because I'm doing all of this extra work beyond my responsibilities that they had to compensate me for that, because from their view, that wasn't necessarily a part of the deal. So I had to kind of, I guess, lower my ambitions a bit and humble myself to say, well, yes, there are two sides of this. One is that you need to be compensated for what you're doing. But the other side is you're doing way more than you signed up for. And you have to make a decision. Are you going to stay here and deal with what you've been given? Or are you going to take those talents, those skills, and flip it into something that can give you that satisfaction of meeting the moment with that vision?
I love that, Tisa, because what I want people to understand is just because you're doing a lot of things doesn't necessarily mean that's of value to the organization. So you really need to be clear on that. And you also need to get clear on what is valuable to the organization. What can you lobby for? What can you advocate for? And what that really requires is sometimes for you to get outside of the organization so you can see what other people are doing. Well, when we come back, I do want to delve a little bit more into strategy, Tisa, because I think so often what I hear people say is that I don't have any time, like if I need to upgrade my skills. So I want to talk when we come back a little bit about the fact that you are a mom with young children, and yet you still were able to juggle all of those responsibilities with your job and get a doctorate. So when we come back, we're going to delve a little bit more into the strategies that Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy actually used to get that doctorate in front of her name.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A Black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on that.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and this is Get Wealthy. And we're really showing you what you need to do specifically to take ownership of both your professional and financial success, because they all go together. Joining me in this conversation and sharing her story is Dr. Tisa Silver-Kennedy, really sharing with you the steps that she took. First, mindset, having to kind of rid herself of the belief that, you know, because she did a lot of work, people owed her employer owed her for it. Now we're talking about strategy. And one of those strategies that Tisa really took in order to prepare herself, because it did really help her as she went on in her journey, was get her doctorate degree. And so, Tisa, so often I hear people say, I don't have enough time. So let's talk about, you knew that you wanted to take advantage of this, getting your doctorate and them paying for it. How did you juggle being a mom, a wife, and having a career and getting your doctorate?
Oh, it was quite a delicate balancing act. I will say, looking back on it, some of those habits, the late nights, I remember like taking my lunch break and reading textbooks over lunch as opposed to going out to eat with my colleagues, and just trying to fit school in wherever I could. But it's really about making the decision. Once you make the decision that this is the direction that you're going to go in, I do believe that there's power in having a decided heart. So it's, some days it was late nights, others it was early mornings. But once that decision was made, it had to be done. So I really just had to take a hard look at my schedule and carve out the time to make sure that I was going to be successful. But leading up to that, I just want to touch on the decision about which program to pursue. There are a lot of people that think, well, I'll go to school, I'll get a doctorate. And, once I've got the doctorate, then everything will be set. They'll pay me more because I've got this advanced degree. But you have to make sure that when you're choosing a program, it's relevant to the line of work that you're in or the line of work that you want to pursue. So another tip from you, strategy-wise, was to look at an organization, look at my ideal job within that organization, see who has it, read their bio, and connect with them for one of those informational interviews. And I did that. And that's how I learned a bit more about some of the degree programs that are out there. And it made me feel more confident in the one that I pursued, which was a doctorate of higher education administration with a concentration in community college leadership. So before anyone goes out to get that advanced degree, if you're working, if you also have a family, please know up front that it will be a lot of work, but it's not impossible. We all, when we enter into these things, you come up with ways to manage your ecosystem, your home, your work, your relationship. And it's so important that when you do need help, you reach out to the people in your circle that you can trust to support you at the times when it does feel like it's overwhelming.
I love that, because the reason I wanted you to really double click on that is that so much of the reason that you have been able to accomplish so much of what you have is because you understand how to ask for help and how to use the resources around you that are needed in order to give you insight and in order for you to make the right decisions. And that's what all those informational interviews were really about. You getting out of your head and, kind of thinking what's good and rather than doing some research and someone telling you and giving you the insight you needed to make the right decisions. And so when we come back, I want to talk about execution. And you alluded to that already, Tisa, just about deciding before you executed on, you knew you wanted to get that doctorate, but what did you need to know before you actually pursued it so that it really aligned to your ultimate long-term gain? And I want the audience to know that in Wealthy You, we call that the difference between playing checkers and chess. Your next move, or what is the long-term goal ultimate goal that you have, and then you can begin to make the right strategic moves around the way. So when we come back, we're going to get into the third part of our framework on Get Wealthy, and that is execution. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back.
These are the only bins that will accommodate larger roller boards.
They put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you hoop 10.
Oh my God.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on that.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
You dig?
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. And man, have we been learning about the incredible story of Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy and how, rather than sitting back and feeling underappreciated and undervalued, like I've seen so many people do, she really went out, asked for help. We talked about the mindset shift that she had to make, and that was, hey, even though I've done well, I know I can do better. We talked about strategy, her really looking at what were the resources that were available to her. And now we're going to talk with her about how she executed on all this strategy. So, Tisa, thank you so much for giving people, walking them through your process really for how you have been able to achieve what you wanted to. Now, we talked about earlier in the program you shared that not only did you start a consulting business and that doctorate, right? I want to ask what role having that doctorate played in once you did launch the for-profit side of your business in you being successful.
Okay, so the doctorate definitely adds an additional layer of credibility. And if you're working in higher ed, it's a space where people go to earn degrees and credentials. So if you're going to be, an expert in that area, then it helps to have a doctorate in front of your name. In my case, I wanted to share that my first client was actually from a group that I volunteered with in my prior role. So we'd been working together for the cause of financial wellness on campus. And there were actually two people that were having a conversation about me that I had no clue about. And they wanted to know what's happening in the state of Maryland in the way of financial education and wellness. Who knows what's happening on all of these campuses? And one of the people said, you know what? I bet Tisa could find out. Too bad she's got a job, though, because this would be a full-time kind of thing. So little did they know that at the same time, I was thinking, you know what? We can bring people together in this state across the campuses, and we could do more together than I could do by myself on one campus. But my problem again was who's going to pay me to do that? So when I really truly decided that I was going to leave the job and try to go out on my own, those two people were they were top two on my list of people to call and let them know, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. I'm going to be, heading out, transitioning to running my own business. And they were like, wow, well, we've got a project for you. And that's how my first contract came to be. It came from people that I had worked side by side with in a volunteer capacity for years. And they became my first clients.
I love that. So part of that execution, what you're sharing is part of the reason you could start that new role or launch this new business is you already had a client, which, by the way, is brilliant. But also the other thing I wanted you to touch on was how did you decide then to start the not-for-profit side of your business?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in my first contract, it was supposed to be 1 year, but it ended up going for about 2.5. And I was charged with basically taking an inventory of all the financial education and wellness activities that were going on campuses across the state, and then making recommendations about what we should do next. And so after I presented the results of this report to Maryland's Financial Education and Capability Commission, I started to think, wow, I've got people on these campuses who opened up to me, shared with me their struggles, shared the desires that they have for financial wellness on their campuses. What can we do with all of this information and with all of this passion? And so I thought, well, maybe we should create a statewide network. And then beyond creating that statewide network, I thought we need more infrastructure to this because there are people on campuses who are ready to do the work. I have myself and my experiences doing the work for nearly 7 years on a campus here in the state. And we also have people that are in government, people that are in corporations and foundations who support the work. How can we bring them all together to ultimately benefit all of Maryland's college and career students? And that's when I got the idea. I'm going to create a center, and it's named the Maryland Center for Collegiate Financial Wellness. So last July 2021, I actually launched the center with a virtual symposium, and we were so blessed to have Dr. Jay Perman, who's the Chancellor of the University System of Maryland. We also had representatives from, I think, nearly 30 colleges and universities across the state and another 25 from across the nation, plus one in Canada. So what started out for me as an idea in that one office on that one campus to reach people across the state turned into something that resonated with people across the country. And for me, it's so rewarding to be able to do work that I love, but to also bring people along with me and to know that we're creating a better space for Maryland's college and career students and even those across the country.
Well, thank you so much for that. Just your vision. And I want people to kind of see that mindset shift really, and one of the foundations for the coaching that Tisa went through is just really seeing problems as opportunities, right? And you were looking all around the state, or just in the need in the need of the audience that you serve. And it's so interesting, Tisa, I was like, Maryland, what did you need just Maryland? Why don't we, so, we always thinking big. But the other question I really have for you is that, you are doing some amazing work. specifically around the fact that Black students have so much student loan debt and are mired in student loan debt. So I also want you to talk a little bit about your book that you also wrote after leaving your role in your career. And now that book, Borrowing While Black, and the impact that that's making. So talk to our audience a little bit about that.
Sure. So after I left my former role, I started to work on a book that was just generally about how much college costs. And I consulted you on that project. We were, talking about how to make the most of college without mortgaging your future, something to that effect, to address, students taking out loan debt and also parents and family members taking out debt for students to get degrees. But the more and more I started to think about it and think on the experiences that I had counseling people through this loan debt, you start to see some patterns after you meet with enough people over time. And what I saw was many Black women in particular having these really high debt to income ratios, pursuing higher education, sometimes because it was necessary for their career, and other times for that layer of credibility to have that doctorate in front of their name. But the financial position that it put them in, really, it was in some cases tragic, and it was very upsetting to me personally. And I knew that I wanted to do something about that. At the same time, there was a special that aired called Young, Gifted, and Broke on BET. And there was a student that reached out to me to say, hey, do you have any resources on student loan debt for Black borrowers? And I said, let me see. And I looked around, I didn't see much. So I decided that I would write a book that would talk about the problem, but also give Black students and their families strategies to make the most of the higher education experience, but also minimizing student loan debt at the same time.
Wait. No, go right ahead.
Oh, no, so I was going to say that the book, so many people have said, this is easy to understand. I didn't know that the debt issue was this bad, and I wanted to get the word out to as many students as possible. So one thing that I did in late 2020 was I started a campaign called the Maryland HBCU Challenge. And my goal was to give away 500 copies of Borrowing While Black and split it across the 4 HBCUs in Maryland. And I thank you again because you donated 100 books to that cause. And we exceeded our goal. We actually gave out about 650 copies of the book delivered to Morgan State University, Coppin State University, the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and Bowie State University. So the word is spreading. And again, that goal is to really make Black students and their families aware of all of their options for pursuing higher ed and ways to minimize student loan debt.
Well, Tisa, I've got to tell you that the work that you do is so critical. And in another one of our programs, we're going to be double clicking on just that, the fact that so many Black families in particular have bought into the idea that student loan debt is good debt, right? And so the work that you're doing is so critical to just educating our community about how to make decisions around investing in higher education and making sure you're going to get a return on the investment. Certainly that was the conversation that we had when you were going to pursue your degree, going out, doing informational interviews so that you could understand what specifically was the field of study that would align to your ultimate long-term goals. So Dr. Tisa Silver-Kennedy, it is always a joy to have a conversation. And let me just say how proud I am of the work that you're doing and the fact that you have taken the leap and you're getting wealthy by not only doing well, but doing good. So just a final word of encouragement to our audience today.
I just encourage them to not be afraid to ask for help. I know that for many years, I sometimes felt like asking for help was a sign of weakness on my part. I just thought, I have to figure it out. I have to get it done. I'll do it myself. But if you go that route, you're going to find yourself taking so much more time, using so much more energy, and losing out on the opportunity to go farther and to learn from people who have more knowledge or experience in certain areas that could benefit you. So please do not think that asking for help means that you're weak. It actually means that you're wise enough to know that you can't handle everything on your own, and that's perfectly okay.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy, thank you so much for joining us on Get Wealthy. And when we come back, we're going to break down exactly the process of how she was able to analyze, optimize, and maximize in order to achieve her ultimate goal of creating the kind of financial success that she desired and deserved.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back to Get Wealthy. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and I hope you got a lot out of that conversation. Really, that, hey, in order for you to achieve financial success, you've got to take ownership of it. And so I want to just review the process that Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy used in order to launch her own business and launch a nonprofit. Now, the first step really was analyze. I mean, I want to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how fearful are you of leaving your employer? Well, what really will diminish a lot of that fear is that you optimize what you have currently. And so in Dr. Tisa Silver Kennedy's case, she looked around, had benefits, and her employer would pay for her doctorate. And that was another credential that she would need in order to realize her dream. And then finally, she had to maximize all of her resources. But here's what I want you to know. She said it, I didn't, is that you can measure a person's success by their ability to ask for help. And for so many people, you're trying to figure it out on your own. And what you need to know is that in order to take ownership, sometimes it means getting some guidance to figure out what it is you need to do. And so when we come back, I'm going to share exactly the 3 things you need to know and take away from this program to achieve the same kind of success that Tisa did.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you've had a great time watching this show because it's all about helping you get wealthy. And so, what are the 3 things you need to know about this show, your takeaways from this show? Well, the first thing is you need to identify your unique skill set. What are the things that you do really, really well that you can use to create value for others? That's certainly what Dr. Tisa did. She took her love of financial literacy and helping others and created a for-profit business and a nonprofit business, and also wrote a book. That's how she was able to do the second thing, And that was monetize her skill set. So she took all of that knowledge and then was able to use it in terms of helping other organizations research as well as write a book. And so the third aspect is that if you're going to systemize or scale, or if you're going to scale any business, you have to systematize it. So as you heard in Dr. Tisa's case, she thought about all of the other organizations and stakeholders, if you will, who had a interest in helping minimize and diminish the type of struggles that students are having with student loan debt. So here's all I want you to know is that if Tisa can do it, you can do it. And that's how you get wealthy. I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. Thank you for joining us for this show. And I can't wait for you to see what comes next.